Welcome back. We're going to get the panel's views shortly on the day as well as indeed the week's events out of Canberra. Parliament will be back again next week. But before doing so, just a short time ago, before he was dashing back to Melbourne, I spoke to the new Assistant Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Now, we talked about leadership because that was our top story tonight. I got his views on that. We also talked about economics. He caught me out, not the other way around, actually, when I tried to get a bit of a gotcha moment going. Hashtag PVO News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on what it is, and I'll let you know exactly what it was at the end of the interview. Here's Josh Frydenberg. Josh Frydenberg, thanks for being there. Mark Riley has broken the news on Channel 7 that there may well be a leadership spill this coming week and that the backbench claims that they have the numbers, but it's now up to the front bench. Well, as the newest member of the ministerial lineup, are you going to bring it on?
I'm certainly not going to bring it on, and I'm standing right beside the Prime Minister along with my other colleagues, because we've had a leadership spill attempt that was defeated quite significantly, 61 to 39.
You really think that was significant, though, when the front bench are expected to hold the line to have nearly two-thirds of the backbench vote against the Prime Minister? That seems to be one of the reasons, maybe, why Mark Riley is saying that it looks like it could well be on again as long as the front bench get together and make a move, or at least some of them do.
Well, Peter, as you know, many in the media, including yourself, were getting also excited about a potential new Prime Minister that could be in the waiting, and it never eventuated, and that's why I do think that 61-39 was significant, and the Prime Minister made very clear after that result that he had heeded the message and he's gone about his business differently. He's been out and about in many, many electorates since that leadership.
Do you think it's been good government since then, though, Josh Frydenberg? I mean, genuinely good government? It's been over 2 weeks.
Well, I do. I think that there's some very positive announcements, whether it's about Foreign Investment Review Board, decisions around agriculture and as well as residential real estate, the Prime Minister's national security statement. I think we've tried to clarify the situation successfully around the submarine project. We've got a successful measure through the Senate, a $1.3 billion.
Well, let's talk about some of those policies.
The R&D tax concession.
Let's talk about some of those policies and move on from the leadership speculation, even if it may engulf us all next week when Parliament returns. The foreign investment adjustments that were announced in Cogra in relation to residential real estate. Can you clarify something for me? The Treasurer at the press conference said that it would be a $5,000 rate on properties under, I think, the million mark it was, but the statement that went with it said it would be up to $5,000. Which one is it?
Well, I understand it to be a by the way, firstly, it's important to say, Peter, this is an options paper. So this is now a discussion we are having with the Australian people and with the important stakeholders in the sector.
Well, it's the options paper that says up to 5,000, but in his press conference yesterday, the Treasurer said that it was at 5,000. Do you know which one it is?
Well, my understanding has been what the Treasurer has also said, which is it's at 5,000 below $1 million, and then above that it escalates with every $1 million after that by 10,000. Now, I think this is a product of an important report that's been done by a House of Representatives Economics Committee, in which Kelly O'Dwyer has been the chairperson. It's a significant issue.
But that's the part of it, Mr. Frydenberg, that I'm interested in, because her committee suggested 1,500. The Treasurer in the press conference said it would be 5,000, but the options paper, as you refer to, says up to 5,000.
Well, we've had an internal discussion about where that starting figure should be, and while there was some discussion that it should be below 5,000, after debate among colleagues, it was decided that that's where it should land. Now, again, it's worth emphasising, Peter, this is a discussion paper, an options paper. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's hear the pros and cons. But we're certainly very committed to introducing a new regime to ensure greater transparency in residential real estate, and that we can also fund better the FIRB process so the proper checks and balances can be put in place.
You've had a pretty good time of it since becoming a minister. Our own political editor here at Sky News, David Spears, gave you our play of the day for what I think was your first parliamentary question. A lot of the fun you've had has been at the expense of poor old Chris Bowen, with not knowing what the marginal tax rates were, or at least what the entry-level one was. Can you tell us, what is it?
The entry level is at 18,200, and after that you pay 19 cents in the dollar on your marginal tax rate, up to $37,000, and we can keep going. But we have a series of
what does the
marginal tax rates.
18,200 change to come budget time?
Well, you are preempting decisions in the budget, which I'm not expecting for anything to change there. But we do have
all of that was already announced, because it's meant to
places.
go up in line with what was already stipulated. You'd know what that is. Surely you're right in the middle of your budget preparations.
Look, I just think that in relation to Chris Bowen.
But do you know what it goes up to, Josh Frydenberg?
Well, it's 18,200.
But it's changing.
19 cents in the dollar. It goes from 18,200 to 37,000.
But the bottom one at 18,200,
to 80.
The 18,200 one goes up, as has already been laid out, come July 1.
Well, I'll have to check that and come back to you. I won't be like Chris Bowen and pretend I'm not answering a different question and then pretend I was a bit tired and I've done 1,000 interviews. So, as I understand it, the current rate is 18. The current threshold kicks in at 18,200 and escalates upwards to 37,000 and then up to 80,000 and from 80 to 180,000.
I think it goes up to 19,400, but to be honest, I could have every bit as much egg over my face as Chris Bowen on that, because to be frank, I don't think these things matter that much. Kudos to you though, because when a Shadow Treasurer makes that mistake, there is nothing wrong with going after him. Let's talk about the detail though. The intergenerational report will be released next week, is that right?
That is what the Treasurer has said. Next Thursday will be the day.
And when it does, are we going to get a range of options in that? Because it strikes me that one of the things that I'm interested in, and I would have thought most voters would be as well, is I would like to know what the trajectory of debt is, depending on whether various scenarios get followed. So, for example, if you don't get your various measures through the Senate, or if you do, if there are certain adjustments that are made or that aren't made, are we going to get a bit of a snapshot at what Australia's options are for debt accumulation over the next 20, 30, 40 years, based on what we know is an ageing of the population?
Well, look, I'm not going to preempt what the Treasurer's announcement will be on Thursday. It's an important opportunity to lay out what you said is a snapshot for the Australian people about where we are going over the next 40 years. As you know, these only come out every 5 years, and they're important documents, and they deal with everything from health to education to the ageing of the population, the ramifications that it will have. But as we know from the Commission of Audit, today in Australia, Peter, we have 5 working Australians for every single retired Australian, and that number falls to 2.7, or that ratio falls from 2.7 to 1. And the point there is that it has massive ramifications for government expenditure in every sector, and this needs to be seen through an intergenerational report, which will hopefully provide for the Australian people the context for our decision making and why we're so concerned about budget repair.
All right, quick final one. You don't want to tell me what my EFO said the CPI forecast would be?
Well, I think, in terms of the CPI forecast, we're below 2%, and we are seeing, downward pressure on inflation as an outcome of lower electricity prices, falling oil and gas prices, and I think for us in my EFO, the biggest message was the downward pressure on our revenue projections, Peter, because $32 billion had to be written off as a result of lower iron ore prices, lower commodity prices, including coal and also wheat and gas. So the real concern from us out of my EFO was the impact on the revenue side that we will see from declining terms of trade.
Too many numbers in there for a humble political scientist. Josh Frydenberg, you're always a good sport. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being prepared to miss your flight at the end of the parliamentary sitting week. That's never a small thing. I realise that, getting back to family. Really do appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Peter. Bye-bye.
And that there is why he is touted as possibly a future Liberal leader, but certainly a future member of the Cabinet. He was right about 18,200. It was supposed to go to 19,400, but that was cancelled by the Gillard government of all governments, as they were desperately trying to hit that surplus mark. They never got there. They cancelled it. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a surprise in the budget and it will go up. But if that's the case, Mr. Frydenberg wasn't going to share that with us tonight. You're watching PVO News.